Hey everybody, and welcome back into the WSAZ Now studio. My name is Joseph Payton. This is another episode of WSAZ Sports Plus. You're used to seeing Keith Morehouse with me. There he is. He wouldn't miss an episode of WSAZ Sports Plus, especially on a week like what we're having here in Huntington right now. We'll be talking about Marshall Hoops in this episode, but of course not to bury the lead. Really the leading sports story in this town on the campus of Marshall University this week is the decision to cut the swimming and diving team, and as we now know, the addition of a stunt gymnastics team. We've heard rumblings about this all week, Keith. Mm-hmm. There was a Board of Governors meeting today where we got some things on record, where we know we have some actual factual information that we can talk about. You have to feel for the athletes. You also have to understand that the university is trying to do the responsible thing, in their opinion, so there's all kinds of ways and angles to look at it. When did you first start hearing about this, Keith, and what do you make of it so far?
Honestly, the rumblings came out last week that there had been a team meeting with the athletics department and the swimming and dive program and head coach Ian Walsh. And so, we hear that. And honestly, the first national traction it got was when Pat Forty, national sports writer, very well known, his daughter, a really good competitive swimmer, I believe at Stanford, maybe for the Olympics team, found out about this through a team member who had contacted him and basically put it out there, on Twitter for everybody to see. So we knew about it. In this day and time, we've got to get it confirmed, and the Board of Governors had to meet to finalize it. But yeah, and it's unfortunate for a lot of reasons. First of all, the student athletes that have worked their tails off, and we often talk about practices and the primary sports we focus on. These Olympic athletes work just as hard, if not harder, and sometimes take tougher road trips to work their craft. They to find that out the week before they go to the American Athletic Conference swim tournament, of which Marshall is a member because the Sun Belt only has 4 teams that swim. And so that starts Wednesday in Greensboro, North Carolina. So to hear all that before you got to go and swim your last meet for Marshall is very tough. And it's tough for Brad Smith and Gerald Harrison, the president and the athletics director. Nobody wants to see these athletes lose out on basically a contract that they were, given that they were going to stay here and swim for 4 years or dive. So it's really unfortunate. It comes down to what so much comes down to anymore, Joseph. We know this. We talk about it every week. It comes down to dollars. And Marshall said, Brad Smith basically said there were 3 factors: financial, infrastructure, and Title IX that led to this. So we'll just go through. We won't bore you with a lot of numbers, but financially, they said over $800,000 goes to the swim program, and that includes the infrastructure, scholarships, and the like. When they bring in stunt gymnastics, that will cost about $330 a year, so $1,000. So if you do the math, that's a savings of about $500,000. They also have to increase the number of student athletes from the women's perspective to comply with Title IX qualifications. That is that federal ruling that says you have to offer just about as many scholarships for women as you do for men, and they were on the downside of that. So stunt gymnastics offers 65 or so scholarships, swimming and diving about 30, so you're giving 35 more female athletes a chance at scholarship. And the other thing is the infrastructure of the natatorium at Cam Henderson Center. That building's now 45 years old. Apparently it costs a lot to run. So those are the 3 main factors that he delineated as for the reason to cut swimming and diving and add stunt gymnastics.
You talked about the timing of it. This kind of news, there's no timely time of year to announce that to a team, to announce that to a Thundering Herd fan base. It's going to hurt regardless. And one of the things that I think was Brad Smith that said it, I want to make sure I'm attributing it to the right person. Yeah, Brad Smith said that, delaying this decision further would really just hurt the athletes even more, because now, especially if you are an underclassman, really anyone who's not a senior, you're forced with the decision to stay here at Marshall University and just be a student, no longer a student athlete, or you go find somewhere else where you can continue to do what you love to do, which is be a member of a swim and dive team. And it sounds like 17 of the 28 members of the team already have hit the portal. And, who knows what many of those athletes, what their intentions were originally, but I would imagine most of them would like to be here at Marshall. That's why they're here. And so you you feel for them. What an awkward kind of moment it must have been for them yesterday when they had that send-off outside of the Henderson Center as they go down to compete for conference championships. Like I said, but with an announcement like this, it's never timely. Ripping off that Band-Aid's always going to hurt.
Yeah, and I will say this about Brad Smith, whom I know pretty well, obviously, over the years. He is a compassionate man. He takes no glee in this, of course. Neither does Gerald Harris, and nobody wants to do this. And I'll read just a little bit of his statement. He said, before addressing anything else, I want to speak directly to what matters most, the student athletes, their families, our coaches, and the alumni who built the program. I know this hurts. Over the past week, I've heard from many of you personally, and I've read your messages carefully. Your love for this team and the way you have advocated for one another has been powerful, and it deserves respect. I also want to address the timing. We shared this when we did to ensure our student athletes have access to the full spring transfer window and every available option. Delaying this decision would not have changed the financial analysis, Title IX participation analysis, or the facility realities, but it could have reduced options for the young women most impacted. Let me be clear about what the decision is, and it is not. It's not a performance decision. Our swim and dive program has represented Marshall with pride, competing with strength, and achieving greatness in the classroom. This is a structural decision about sustainability and alignment in a rapidly changing NCAA environment. End quote. So that's Brad Smith's statement, and through the coming weeks we'll hear from some of the swimmers too. But yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it. And looking deeper into this, I mean, the swim and diving team is annually one of the best performers in the classroom on Marshall's campus, far and wide. They do well. They graduate. They come back to the school. They give back as alumni. So you're losing a really powerful group of people that all of a sudden now won't have that allegiance, and this is the problem nationwide. We know this. How often do we expound on this? I will say that just did a quick look at the roster, Joseph. Marshall has swimmers from Tennessee, Indiana, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, England, Virginia, Ohio, Illinois, Ontario, Israel, Alabama, Michigan, India, Georgia, Bulgaria, and Florida. So think of all those different cultures and different athletes you bring from different places who get to come and experience Marshall and Huntington, West Virginia, and unfortunately that won't be the case. However, they will add the new sport. But there is no easy way to salve over this. It's a tough time for the swim and diving program, for the administration, and so the decision's been made. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions about the future of the pool itself. I mean, obviously part of this is the fact that they mentioned that it probably needs some upgrades, some pretty substantial ones if they were to, want to host a Division I program and have meets here and that sort of thing. But it also serves a lot of our local athletes at the high school levels here in the state of West Virginia around Huntington. It does sound like that's still going to be an option for them to use that facility. But as far as hosting a Division I program, it sounds like it's not the best place for it.
Yeah, and here's the bigger picture, and let's just be open and honest about this. We have NIL, we have revenue sharing all across the country. Schools are having to come up with money to pay athletes, and we know that's not changing. So, but do we get to the point now where we're paying football and basketball, and then we're not neglecting, but the other sports are left out, or you do have to sever ties with some of your Olympic sports? I mean, those Title IX requirements still remain, but where's the money for these programs? I mean, we've seen it with wrestling programs across the country. We've seen it with some tennis programs here and there. Olympic sports, those athletes work just as hard. They're valuable to the university. They're valuable to the university, the city, the community, the state where they live and give back to. So I think this is a picture that NCAA just seems to be head in the sand kind of stuff with all these big decisions going on. Somebody at some point is going to have to reconcile it.
Yeah, the national conversation typically circles around what we call the big three, right? Football, basketball, baseball and softball. I know here on Marshall's campus, obviously soccer is a big deal, volleyball. We often don't talk about the ramifications for some of these other sports that don't get the notoriety, the pub, and these are academic and athletic opportunities for people all over the world that bring them right here to this campus to represent you, to represent your community, and sometimes these people end up being the unfortunate victims of paying the price of this new age that we're in.
And isn't that the model of college athletics?
Supposed to be,
to enroll these student athletes, have them graduate, and still gravitate to the university after they're finished. This isn't not just Marshall. This is nationwide. I saw Alabama lost millions of dollars in their athletics program. North Carolina, after hiring Bill Belichick, lost millions of dollars. These are, and by and large, most universities make money on two sports, football and basketball. Yeah. So you do understand they carry the weight, and those are important. But somehow we have to come together as a university, as an athletics community across the country and figure out what's right and what's not going well. Because if this is the end result, that's not a good thing for intercollegiate athletics.
I think the reality for some of these schools, you're forced with the decision of like, what's paying the bills for you? Who's paying the bills? So you start putting all your eggs in that basket, and things like this end up happening, nationally.
Yeah, it's a conversation that has to be had, and I don't know where the NCAA is on this. Everybody's talking about, oh, they need somebody in charge to make decisions, a football czar or whatever you want to call it. But somebody up there is asleep at the switch, and I mean, this is a major deal. College athletics is a billion-dollar business. How much joy and fun does it give us? It's our livelihood to cover them.
Sure. What do we talk about without it?
Yeah, it's great, but I mean, come on, you can't just sit there and fiddle while Rome burns. I mean, you got to do something to try to alleviate some of these issues.
Sure. I do want to tease ahead to some of our coverage here later this evening. Of course, if you are watching this after the fact, this is a little bit dated for you. If you're watching us live, Andrew Colgrove is going to be speaking with Athletic Director Gerald Harrelson. He might be over there right now in the office, but at some point this evening, Andrew Colgrove will have more on that Board of Governors meeting as well. I imagine on both of our newscasts tonight at 5 and 6 and probably 10 and 11. Yep. So we will have more details, so you guys can tune into those sort of things. There are other things happening on Marshall's campus, of course, and we want to make sure we get to them as well. We usually talk Marshall hoops. Let's talk about the men's hoops team while we're at it. 17-10 overall, 9-5 in the Sun Belt. That puts them just a half game out of first place, Keith. All of a sudden, the top half of the Sun Belt is getting pretty crowded, and Marshall's right there in the thick of things.
It's all jammed up.
Big win against South Alabama to finish the week this past week.
I thought it was a huge win. I was just watching South Alabama, big physical team. They play a lot of zone, and they basically dare you to take threes. Well, if Marshall's hitting threes, that could be problematic. They had 18 last night. As we look at the highlights, Jalen Spear was on fire. He had 6 of them. And there's Caleb Hollenbeck. He had 3 in the first half. And Wilson Dubinsky. So they had 12 threes alone, Joseph, in the first half. So they're up by 13 at halftime. And the second half, South Alabama, they had some big players. They're very patient. They just kind of wear you down. You knew they were going to make a run, and here they come. This is a 4-point game at this point. Yeah. And
Marshall really had to fend them off down the stretch now.
Yeah, and this is a big play here. Wyatt Fricks was maybe might have been his best game at Marshall. He was phenomenal, but because basically he was the only big guy. Marshall went with 4 guards and Fricks, and that guy there was really hard to deal with. 28 points for him. And then this, to me, were the 2 plays of the game. Jalen Spear hits that 3 to put him back up 5. Then it's a 2-point game again, and this was a monster rebound and put back by Fricks. He just went up and got it.
That's want to right there.
Yeah, I mean, he played a magnificent game. So that was a huge win for them, Joseph, to try to get them into a better position heading to Pensacola, and a confidence win as well.
Well, since we talked so much about Wyatt Fricks, we do have a sound bite. We've got Corny Jackson and Wyatt Fricks after the game. Here's a little bit about what they had to say after that big win, a win that he said, hey, we really needed that one.
That was a big win that we clearly needed. Proud of these guys. These guys sitting beside me. They came out and they made plays. They executed well against the zone. Obviously, we shot the ball well, but we moved the ball. We had 26 assists, 7 turnovers. So proud of these guys for executing. That was a big win. That's a really good South Al team. Yesterday, I believe it was, we watched them come back. We watched the last 8 minutes of the Arkansas State game, and they were down big, and they came back and ended up winning the game at the end. And we knew we were going to have to fight all the way through.
I've been kind of waiting for this and just prepping myself and waiting for my opportunity, and I feel like I'm trying to do the best to take advantage of it. My teammates believe in me, Corny believes in me, so just stepping up in those big moments. I mean, I've seen Obina in those big moments, I've seen Tavion in those big moments, just seeing how they control themselves and how they stay composed. It's just that mindset of just trying to go out there and win. That's what I want to do. I want to win. So if I got to go out and knock down a three, if I got to go get an O board, block a shot, whatever it is, I just want to win. That's really what it is.
And a big week this week, Keith, at Appalachian State on Thursday. That is the team right now that sits atop the league, so you can catch them just by beating them on Thursday. Coastal Carolina on the road at their place on Saturday. So, I mean, it's all right there for the Herd. You've got this 2-game little road stretch here before I think they come back home for it's either 2 or 3 more.
Yeah.
And it would feel really good to win those 2 games on the road and come back home and really give yourself a chance to win a regular season conference crown.
I wouldn't want to be the guy down in New Orleans for the Sun Belt who has to kind of figure out all these algorithms about who's first, who's second, who's third, who's tied, who wins the tiebreaker. That's going to be kind of nuts when that happens, end of the year.
You want to go to the women now?
Yeah.
They are 22-6 overall. Let me change our graphic real quick first. That way, there we go. A lot of people are visual learners, you know. They need to be able to see that and read what we're talking about, not just hear it. So the Herd women, 22-6 overall. I had the, what are they? I think 12-2 in the Sun Belt or 12-1. I had just, they have 12 wins in the Sun Belt. I can't remember what.
I believe they're 12-3.
12-3 in the Sun Belt. My notes are failing me, but they're a half game back of Georgia Southern and Troy. Man, that Troy loss just keeps kicking them again, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're thinking about that, I'm sure. But
it hurts, but they're playing really good basketball right now, Keith.
Yeah, they beat Arkansas State, and Arkansas State was atop the league over the weekend in Huntington. Lewis Utsi, phenomenal, and Peyton Ilderton and Meredith Mayer all in double figures in the earlier game of the week against Georgia State, and then that same threesome in double figures against Arkansas State, and that was a big win over the Red Wolves as we're looking at highlights because they made some nice runs themselves, but every time Marshall seemed to have an answer. Here's Lewis Utsi doing her thing. When she gets the ball in the open floor, man, she's tough to stop.
Have we heard the announcement about Conference Player of the Week yet? It's usually about this time, I feel like.
It does come on Tuesday. I haven't even seen it. I haven't had a chance to look. But
Before we came up here, I looked and I didn't find it, but I would like to think she's got another shot at another Conference Player of the Week bid.
Well, she's going to be right there for Player of the Year, and of course, first team all conference, and they just kept coming. And you know, what they had trouble with was the press, and then Coach Folks did a good job of saying throw it over top, and then you get your athletes involved. Lewis Utsi and there's Ilterton with the big time.
Watch the emotion
and
here.
one man, she's all fired up. She's all fired up, and she just doing her thing, leading the charge and directing it, getting it to her best players. And Meredith Mayer rather hit a big time 3 later in this one that just kind of helped keep them at bay. And that's a big win. I mean, it's just they just keep on keeping on.
3 games to go, half game out of first place. They are at Georgia Southern on Thursday. They're at Georgia State on Saturday. So both teams on the road this week. They won't be nearly as comfortable as what they are when they're here at the CAM. But, I mean, both of these teams could certainly play themselves into a regular season championship. It's funny with what we call the mid-majors now.
Yeah.
The regular season conference crown is great, and you absolutely want that. But, man, those tournament championships are what put you in the big tournament at the end of the thing. So I'd like to have both.
Well, you would. It's what, and we talked about, it's what makes the Sun Belt and leagues just like it so important in that regular season. They value the regular season because that helps your seed. And like we talked about the women last year, won 5 games in a row and still would have to win 3 more to win the title. Or so that's just too big a hill to climb. So if you can get in that top 4, that situates you. And if you can get 1 or 2, and you're doing well. So they're both positioned themselves really well down the stretch here heading to Pensacola.
Better than having to play 5 games just to get to championship Sunday or Saturday, whatever it is, right?
I don't care how young you are. You play five Division I basketball games in a row, even 3. You don't even see 3 very many times. But that kind of grind helps you because now you know what it feels like. And Peyton Ilderton said to you on your show with her and Meredith Mayer that by the time they got to that 5th game, your legs feel it. I mean, you can go through the motions all you want, but if you don't have your legs, you can't play. And so, just help yourself and put yourself in a good position and see where the rest of those days at Pensacola take you.
Keith, I'm sure we'll talk more about the swim and dive situation next week as we learn more. It's hard to say, when the stunt team's going to start, what conference they'll compete in, all those sorts of things. But we'll certainly see you next week for that one. You got anything else before we let you go?
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for all the work you do up here, and Chelsea over there helping us out. We always appreciate
I did tell Chelsea we need to get her a microphone. You know.
Oh yeah, she could be like Stanford Steve. You know how he's
always just out
just throwing in an appropriate comment or so.
every so often.
But no, it's good. Yeah, it's a big it was a big decision at Marshall, and a lot of people affected. So we'll keep our ears and eyes on it, and certainly have more of that coming up on WSAZ News.
Thank you for joining me up here, Keith. I'll let you go do what you got to do. We'll see you on the Sportscast at 6.
All right, thanks, Joseph.
Well, and I'll take this thing home. If you give me a moment, I'll get the correct camera up. So, again, if you're watching us live, I just want to kind of push you towards our on-air broadcast later tonight because Andrew Colgrove is all over this swim and dive story for us. He's going to be bringing you some sound bites from Athletic Director Gerald Harrison. And he also has plenty of video from that Board of Governors meeting. He was locked in our conference room watching that as it was unfolding earlier this afternoon. So make sure you tune into that. Remember that all these episodes get posted on WSAZ.com. Just go to the WSAZ Sports Plus tab. They get uploaded to YouTube as well. They get uploaded to Spotify and Apple. And if you follow me on Facebook, we put clips out there as well. So appreciate you all joining us. A lot of things happening here in Huntington and on the campus of Marshall University. So appreciate you tuning in to, I guess, listen to us try to make sense of all of it. For now, I am Joseph Payton. This has been WSAZ Sports Plus. We will see you next week.